Hey, Larry Fink, the big boogeyman of ESG DEI, the hedge fund manager to rule them all, the guy in charge of BlackRock. You've probably heard the name before, but you probably really don't understand what they do. Alongside State Street and Vanguard, they're the big boogeymans pushing all the wokeness and all of the media, making everything suck, all in the name of diversity. Now listen, if you've been paying attention, if you've been watching my content for a while, you're going to know that I didn't really think all that much about this ESG pushing. All these people just blaming everything on DEI. No. The rot runs deeper than that. And if you actually want to take a look at these companies, because BlackRock, Vanguard, or State Street has investment in one of these companies doesn't mean that they can't produce something good. For Star Wars fans that are out there, you have Andor, that's incredibly well written. If you're into video games, you know that Sweet Baby Inc. is the big boogeyman in the room, and yeah, they do incredibly terrible stuff, and everything that they touch tends to turn to dog crap. With, of course, the obvious example being God of War Ragnarok. Square Enix last year put out that piece of trash Forspoken, and then, of course, this year put out Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I can go ahead and vouch for that one firsthand. There is nothing in there that's woke about it at all, even though Square Enix, the parent company, has an ongoing relationship with the black girl gamer types that are out there. So this is just a level 1 boogeyman, the ESG. Oh, they're trying to force behaviors, all because back in 2017, Larry Fink, and don't get this twisted, okay, this is very nefarious actions. Him saying we're going to have to force change gender or race. And yeah, I'll play the clip here because I think it is important for everybody to get full context on exactly who we're dealing with here and why his specific meltdown is just the natural cause of events, okay?
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same thing.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race, or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities, and we're going to have to force change.
See, and that's why he's the big boogeyman in the room, because yeah, he said everything that would normally send a shiver up your spine. Behaviors are going to have to change. This is one thing we are asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. Yeah, if you actually cared about this stuff, like I was saying before, man, there are certain things that you can specifically point to. Who's writing all of this crap? Who are the ones that are in the human resources department making sure that the proper boxes get checked? Who are the most vocal activists that are out there? Yeah, if you wanted to point to a specific grassroots problem, I mean, who are the most pliable when it comes to these behaviors? If you actually want to do something about it, there you go. We added 4 more points to the terms of diverse employment this year, and what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. But yeah, this is what happens when BlackRock ends up buying 10% of your company. Yeah, 10% doesn't really seem all that much, okay? And that's why when everybody was spurging out saying, oh my God, BlackRock investment, oh my God, they own so much of this stuff, that's why everything's woke and everything's bad. No, it's a surface level reading, okay? And you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race, you any way you want to say the composition of your teams, you're going to have to be impacted. We must force behaviors. And like I said, that was in 2017. So this plan has been in the works for a while. Obviously, we have seen it flourish, and now he's having to reap those dividends because at the end of the day, he's the CEO of a hedge fund. And what is a hedge fund supposed to do? Turn profits for its investors. And by pushing and forcing these behaviors, hasn't manifested in anything worthwhile. I'm glad that we're all starting to finally come around to this fact. We're all generally just tired and walking away from the ESG peddling, just simply branding something as woke. People are finally starting to ask for definitions, starting to ask the right questions, because I'm not saying that there's not a woke problem that's going on. Obviously, there is. You just need to be specific and pointed. Otherwise, you're just as nebulous with terminology as the leftists that you're trying to criticize. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink published his annual letter to investors recently, but his silence on 3 issues may speak louder than anything he said therein. First, Fink stayed true to his promise to avoid using the term ESG. Yeah, he wants to repackage it and put it in as something different, but the consequences will still be just as disastrous, which stands for the use of environmental, social, and governance factors in corporate decision-making. By my account, Fink has used ESG 4 times in his 2021 letter, but it will not use it in this year's letter. Why does this matter? Okay, the author has written about it elsewhere. People regularly use woke capital, stakeholder capitalism, and the use of ESG factors interchangeably, which these terms and phrases often have in common is a rejection of the profit maximization or shareholder capitalism or shareholder wealth maximization norms that have left even struggling students today better off than kings or queens of bygone eras. Because yeah, for as bad as everything is right now, we're actually living better than everybody else in human history, obviously, and brought us to the cusp of eradicating poverty. To be fair, some proponents of woke capital argue that ESG is good for business until you see it in practice, and then you realize that business isn't going to be around for much longer, in that it merely helps avoid short-termism and better captures all the risks impacting long-term value. To this, critics respond by noting that profit maximization capitalism already takes all material information into consideration and already includes time horizons in the expected value calculations. Thus, one should rightly be suspicious of ESG operating as a Trojan horse for pushing a leftist agenda that advocates can't get implemented via democratic means. Blah, 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 a bunch of other buzz terms, ESG, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, or Ocasio-Cortez, everybody else that's out there. Work them all together to just get you all hyped up and constantly in a perpetual state of outrage until you see the practices take place, you see those changes get implemented and realize that at the end of the day, man, these are companies, okay? Because a hedge fund manages a wide portfolio of investments for other businesses. So if you invest in a company and you try to force these behaviors and they don't end up ultimately turning a profit, you're ending up hurting your own bottom line. So why would they continue to do this? It doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. Yeah, they're trillion-dollar hedge funds. I understand. It's not a case of them just immediately going bankrupt like that. It's just simple math. You can't keep going with these ideas. That's why calling this stuff out, pointing to specific examples is so important. Just getting all hyped up about it, thinking that it's going to be the end of the world. No, man. That's for the kooks that are out there, okay? That's for the most black-pilled out there. And I ain't that, that's for true. According to Fink's, elimination of ESG from his vocabulary might be seen as some sort of a win for proponents of free market capitalism. However, Fink has apparently simply replaced ESG with conscious capitalism. Which, yeah, whenever you hear anything with an emotional base prefacing something that has empirical or objective value, you already know what time it is, which suggests nothing much has really changed given ESG is conscientious capitalism in practice. Now, for example, Fink referenced carbon in some form 19 times, decarbonize, lower carbon, as well as using the phrase energy transition 5 times, suggesting BlackRock remains wedded to value and security, destroying climate alarmism, until they realize that, yeah, those wind farms suck a giant dick, and that if you're not down with nuclear power at this point in time, I mean, like, come on, you just see the energy shortages everywhere. If you're not doing something proactive about it, eventually you're going to get at one of those Dutch farmers situation where they show up with the manure trucks. Second, Fink made no mention of Texas Texas's decision to pull $8.5 billion from BlackRock in response to BlackRock's previous politicization of its asset management business. Yeah, the whole hedge fund, the entire thing that they do. As Will Hild noted in a thread on X unpacking BlackRock's letter in response to its divestment, what BlackRock can't deny is that they use the assets managed for Texas Permanent School Fund and others to push companies to push destructive, counterproductive, inflation-creating net zero targets. So they can't deny it because up until we started sounding the alarm, they bragged about it publicly on their website. Third, Fink made no mention of Mississippi's demand that BlackRock cease and desist making untrue statements about its ESG investment. Oh, take a look at that. Now that people are aware of their strategies, the system has taken effect. It's kind of crazy how this stuff works. To be fair, the demand may have come directly on the heels of Fink's letter, but BlackRock was clearly aware of the risks associated with its practical embrace of ESG, and yet Fink avoided any discussion of it in his letter. As Spencer Brown notes in his related piece, these untrue, misleading claims, cease and desist, say they fall into two main categories. The first is BlackRock's marketing of non-ESG funds, Watson says, misleading investors that are not interested in ESG and are led to believe that BlackRock's non-ESG funds will be managed for the sole purpose of investor financial returns without regard of ESG criteria. However, Watson says that it is not true because BlackRock has committed to use all assets under management to advance the environmental agenda of reducing carbon emissions to net zero. But I say all that to get to this. Larry Fink realizing kind of the error in his ways. Yeah, he's flipping out behind the scenes, okay? BlackRock CEO Larry Fink was caught on audio Friday, completely losing his mind as red states cut off funds to his woke company, including Texas Permanent School Fund's decision to withdraw the $8.5 billion that were recently talked about. So I'm here to tell you, this is it's definitely not the end, but we're definitely seeing the downslope of all of these activists' agendas. We're kind of already seeing the malaise of it. Like, the normies have kind of checked out of everything that's super overt when it comes to media, when it comes to BlackRock trying to push their agendas, trying to push all of these diversity quotas. Everybody's about done with that crap at this point in time. It's still going to happen because a lot of these studios, a lot of these companies have a bunch of works in the pipeline, but continuing to call it out with the Warhammer 40k stuff, how quickly everybody was like, nope, that stuff's garbage. From the fans to just the observers alike, everybody is on side with that. The swiftness of Gamergate 2 and the fact that there is nobody on the games journalist side on that one, and especially with some of the stuff coming out about Stellar Blade, yeah, there is no quarter left to give to any of these activist type that are out there. They overplayed their hand. Thank God there are so many useful, with heavy emphasis under this word, idiots that are out there that these companies relied on in order to push to force their behaviors, because when it's all said and done, this house of cards was always going to crumble. I'm just happy that it happened, maybe even quicker than anticipated. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.